Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to today's conversation. We're here for another Blueprints for Belonging event, which is subtitled Conversations for Creating Community. So each month I have the opportunity to sit down with someone to explore this world of community living, what it takes to find community, to start community. And I'm really excited today to be sitting with Katrina. And Katrina and I are soon in January going to be leading a tour visiting different ecovillages in Hawaii, which is where Katrina lives. And I don't live in Hawaii. I wish I did on a day like today. I'm in a chilly, cloudy Vermont on the other side of the United States. And I live myself in a small intentional community and spend a lot of time helping people find communities and also doing a lot of events like this and sharing about community living. It's a huge passion of mine. Firstly, that this is an event we're putting on in partnership with the Foundation for Intentional Community, the FIC at ic.org. And if you're not already familiar, FIC is just a wonderful nonprofit organization that for more than 3 decades has been from the grassroots supporting this movement of community living. They have one of the largest directories of intentional communities, tons of courses and books and events like this. Many of their offerings are by donation. So if you feel inspired by FIC and have the means to donate, they really appreciate that, especially as we're coming in towards the end of year giving period. This is when nonprofits really rely on folks like you to support their mission. So that's the link there, ic.org/donate, if you'd like to make a contribution. And also today, this event is being hosted by my organization, Ecovillage Tours. So ecovillagetours.com. And just like it sounds in the name, we offer small group trips to go and visit different ecovillages and intentional communities around the world. And I know a few of the folks who are listening today have been on some of our past tours. And so today specifically, we're going to be speaking quite a bit about the upcoming Hawaii tour because that is where Katrina lives, and she is going to be one of the guides who's actually bringing us around to visit some of her favorite communities on the Big Island. It's going to be an 8-day tour, January 4th through the 11th, so it's a good way to start the new year with this really big transformational experience. I think it's a perfect opportunity if somebody is looking to start 2025 in a fresh way with lots of inspiration and new connections. And I know some of you are even considering some of our communities in Hawaii to move to and to call home yourself. So that's also something I'm hoping we can unpack a little bit with Katrina today, what it takes to actually make the move to Hawaii, what's going on in Hawaii right now, what is the state of the sustainability and resiliency of the island, what's going on with the communities there, which ones might be options for you to call home, which ones are accepting new members, and that sort of thing. So if you want to learn more about the trip, the website there is ecovillagetours.com/Hawaii. And I think that's everything I had by way of my prelude introduction. I think I'll just share briefly from Katrina's bio, and then we can shift into hearing more about her and her story. Katrina and I actually met a number of years ago at an event in Arizona at a pretty well-known community called Arco Santi. And it was an event to bring together people from these various regenerative and community networks. And it makes perfect sense that Katrina was there. She is a community organizer herself with 25 years of experience in community development, sustainability, event management, and nonprofits. She often leads strategic planning, facilitation, and organizational development consulting, and she has a master's degree in organizational development. Katrina is dedicated to creating sustainable livelihood on a global scale. And I know she has worked with some really ambitious projects in the past, and she is herself available to support communities in a consulting capacity. So I also hope that Katrina can share a bit more about those opportunities for folks to engage with her and her work. So I will just remove now the slides. Hi, Katrina. Welcome.
Hey.
So glad that you're here. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks everyone for listening and for putting your welcome into the chat. I see we have Erica here from California, but is developing a community in Costa Rica called Garden of Divine. Oh my. And Abby is here. Excellent. Looking especially for program openings and availabilities, perhaps after the tour in January. Good to know. William from South Florida. Yulia here. Yulia's actually signed up already to join us on the Hawaii trip.
Yay.
Awesome. Good. Well, Katrina, do you want to start off just by sharing a little bit more about yourself and your background?
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you. And hi, everyone. It's so great to see you. And, deep, we say mahalo in Hawaii as a thank you to Cynthia for just, first of all, what a genuine, wonderful person she is. I just have always appreciated you and what you bring. And you do it in such a humble and genuine and guided fashion in a way that just really helps people feel at home. So I think you embody this blueprint of belonging. So I really appreciate that about you. And I'm really excited to meet some of you who are going to be on the tour. And I think this will be a nice way for us to start to get to know each other. So my background is I was born and raised in Montana, and that's actually where I started doing my community organizing as a teenager. So I'll start from there because I've always been just like kind of a community-minded person and somebody who wants to like connect dots between things. And also I was just bored. I was a bored teenager and I wanted to just start making things happen in Helena, Montana, where I lived. And so I started organizing events. I found a space that wasn't being utilized for anything and started organizing and making things happen out of that. So as far as an organizer goes, that's where I really got started before I moved on to Portland, Oregon. And there's a really amazing group that I was delighted to join basically right out of high school called City Repair. It's the City Repair Project. And there's some really great people who become lifelong friends. And many of you know the founder and visionary of it, Mark Lakeman, who's a really neat architect. He combines community design with architecture, and he calls it communitecture. And so he has a firm that is still going and is always visioning new projects. And we're still very good friends to this day. And just a great person to lean on when it comes to how do we design something that will work for many people. And in that, I learned a lot about designing events that are very community oriented and have lots of partnerships and working with different groups and people on how to create that sense of belonging and that sense of respect and reverence to be able to help people feel connected to a larger sense of community. And in City Repair, we focused on different types of communities. So there's community of place, which is where you physically live. So that can be in your neighborhood, in your intentional community, in the larger geographic area, your bioregion, and it just kind of ripples out from there of looking at community of place. And so that's a really key thing. And so building up from community of place is where we would create zones, or rather the communities who lived in certain neighborhoods would create their own little community plaza by painting the intersection of where roads come together. And that would become their own little community plaza. And that's what we call intersection repair. So essentially repairing those places where the intersection comes together and creating it, like kind of taking back the streets literally, and creating your own community space by painting it. And what I really loved about this particular design and way of working together is that the community around it within 2 blocks of that intersection had to agree on the design, and then they could paint it together. We actually ended up creating a city ordinance on being able to do that. So I really love the model with City Repair in that respect, where it took an idea of like, hey, we need a place. We don't have a place where we can get together and do things. And so then the design of intersection repair came about, where people like literally just took back the streets. And then the city caught on and said, well, this is unusual, but it's neat. So let's find a way to work together. And so I like that City Repair, instead of being like antagonistic, was more of like, okay, well, let's find what do you need from the city, or city, what do you need? And then also community, what do you need? And so looking at all the sides, and then collectively created an ordinance. So I think that's really important in that sense of belonging. Is the city officials have a need that I think we should not ignore. And that is, following rules, because we have to think about, well, fire trucks have to go through. We have to have a sense of safety and all those things. So community of place, there's a lot of different aspects that are going on. And so if we can work together and identify the needs from all the different individuals and organizations and institutions, then we can really create something that works for all. So yeah,
I love that. And if folks are not familiar with City Repair, I did put the link to the website in the chat. It is an incredible model for looking at how we transition the places where people already live into more community spaces. And I know for many folks listening, it's not always possible to up and move to a different community or find, raw land to develop into a community. So this is an excellent way to transition any city, any neighborhood towards something that's more community oriented. Yeah. So glad that you got your roots there, Katrina.
Yeah. And actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because I started working with other cities and other places using the City Repair model. They would reach out to us, and we'd have a convergence in Portland, Oregon, where City Repair started, of all these different cities. Seattle was in there, Los Angeles was in there, places from the East Coast, all over. And it was really great, because we'd be able to share resources and models and different things, and different challenges that come up. And so in a community of place, you have lots of different people from living lots of different different backgrounds. And so it's a really important piece to understand. Okay, let's learn more about you. Let me try and understand your background, instead of having judgment, have curiosity. So a really key thing that I found to help kind of ease situations is to come at it from a place of curiosity and interest, versus judgment, or, only coming from what you know from your background. Be like, oh, maybe there's something to learn here from somebody else's background.
Totally. And so where did you go next after your time at City Repair?
I was kind of up in the whole Pacific Northwest for a while. And then it was a group in LA that wanted to have a City Repair-esque thing happen down there. So they tried to kidnap me, and I eventually decided, yes, I will go along. And so I went down to Los Angeles in 2005. And at that time was also where I was starting to really get involved in greening events, being just seeing there's so much waste that happens in events. Let's create some sort of more sustainable mechanisms. And so I was just kind of vocal about that. And so I ended up greening Burning Man, and then that started in 2005, and that ended up inspiring. We got a huge mass of people. So this was a community of interest. So remember, I talked about community of place. This is also a community of interest. So we didn't all physically live in the same place, but we all had an interest in sustainability. So people from all around the world came, and we had different forums of how we could be able to connect some dots around the different realms of sustainability of how we could green an event. And Burning Man is such an interesting culture. There's people from all over the world, but also so many different levels of interest and expertise and skill and knowledge. So we worked on a whole slew of different ways of how people could become more sustainable at their camp, at their community of place they ended up creating at Burning Man. And then with the idea that people could take that and bring it back to their community of place where they live throughout the rest of the year. So that was kind of our goal of taking, interest and moving it into community of place. So we ended up creating a whole section on the website of different ways to be sustainable, from gray water to compost to reuse and recycling. I mean, you name it. Energy use, power supply, energy generation, all the things. So a lot of that really translates into off-grid communities. And that was kind of a big goal, or, different intentional communities that can be able to take these things and be able to work with whatever the interest is and the values to be able to then do the research and then create a process and a program and then be able to institute it. So that was kind of my vision and my goal, and really kind of what was behind the drive of, just being so involved and okay, let's make this happen. But it's not just for this event. This is for people to incorporate into their lifestyles. So.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I really like that, because so many people go to events, especially things like Burning Man. It's a huge production, huge gathering space. And so if they can get some exposure to more sustainability there and then take that back home, that's a great education tool strategy. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So lo and behold, though, which is really interesting about that whole realm of greening, not just Burning Man, but other events, I ended up connecting with some people, and through the process of that, ended up getting a job at Disney, greening Disney, of all places. It did take me getting a master's degree, but it was something that was really kind of cool. Who would have thunk from greening Burning Man, it would catapult into greening Disney? Not me, but it happened to me. So it was pretty cool. It was a neat experience. And I'm not really a bureaucratic person per se, or, I guess what I'm saying is the atmosphere at Disney was a bit bureaucratic, but it was also very cool because there's some really neat people there, and people who are really interested in making the company more sustainable. So we'd work on policies that were company-wide, not just for Disneyland, but also Disney World, Disneyland Tokyo, all of the theatrical productions, the onstage on Broadway, the film productions, the magazines, ABC, TV networks. There's so many businesses under the big Disney umbrella and so many different things, but we touched it all, which was really cool. It was a really neat place to be, to see everything that's happening within that. So yeah, we would have to find ways to communicate with all these different business units. And so this translates to the community work, because within each of those different business units, they had their own culture. And as with each community, they have their own culture, their own way of communicating, different types of values. And within that, we had to learn, okay, well, what's your culture, and how is the best way for us to communicate with you? And, within that business world, it was, some was through email, some was through phone call, some, a lot of it was just creating a personal connection with somebody in a leadership role. And that easily translates into the community work and intentional communities, because it's finding that point of connection and that, reciprocity of being able to communicate, because like it wasn't just about us giving information. It was us like learning about the other people and finding out what works for them, what doesn't work for them. How does your business unit operate? How does your community operate? So then we can be able to work with you and what are your values? So that was a really interesting experience, because underneath it all, we're all just people, right? And so learning how to work with people and understanding their background and what they bring to the table is one of the biggest things, and one of the biggest lessons I've learned in that whole realm. Because I will admit, coming in, I didn't realize it, but I had a lot of judgment. And that was a huge humbling experience to learn, I didn't realize how judgmental I was. And so I took a few steps back, did a lot of reflection, and it's like, okay, let me look at this from another angle and really, come with curiosity instead of judgment of who these people are who are working at this company. And I've now created lifelong friends because I was able to connect with them for who they are as a real person, versus like, you corporate murmur, like other alternative community work that I had been participating in. So
I think that's a really important reminder, especially for some of the people listening who are starting to reach out to communities or maybe organizations. I know a lot of folks are like at a transition moment in their lives. And just to remember, like when we talk about community, we're really talking about different people, a collection of people who have chosen on the basis of values or shared mission or vision to live together and form this entity. But when you're interacting, you're just interacting as people. So it's a good reminder. It actually, I hope, takes some of the pressure off.
Yes.
So remember that.
Yes.
No.
Indeed.
Do you think that you were successful with some of the work that you did there in terms of changing Disney towards more sustainability?
Definitely. And I just got goosebumps. It was just like, it was a really unique time to be there. And why I say that is because I got to live a case study, literally. Like these are like things that you would read about. And I didn't know I was walking into that. But what had happened is the culture at Disney before I arrived was kind of more of a, I'd like to say greenwashing, or that's not really the right word, but it was very light green, if you will, meaning that they didn't take it super seriously. And there was some good stuff in the works, but this was my also opinion coming in. And then I started to get into it and get on my team and saw how much research was put into every single policy that we focused on and then tried to implement. And I realized through the process, like, why it appears that not a lot of people are taking this seriously is because they don't understand this research. They don't understand the topics. They don't really take the time to, because the team also didn't take the time to get to know how the implementation processes work, which means they didn't understand how the culture operated and what's the best way to share information. So that was kind of what I started doing when I got there. And so that actually opened up a lot of communication networks with internally, and being able to help the information and get processed through and then implemented. Then the other big thing that happened 3 months after I joined was there was a huge public campaign against Disney about their paper policy, or their lack of paper policy at the time. And so the Rainforest Action Network ran, they're a really great organization that does big campaigns against big companies and very activist oriented, but they also really research what they're doing, and they have very clever ways of bringing their campaigns about. So what they did for the paper policy is a two-prong approach. They had people write, they had kids from school write the CEO and say, why are you killing endangered animals in the forests of Indonesia just for our children's books? That was kind of, that was intense. But it was like, ooh, yeah, that's a message right there. So then they also had a couple people dress up as homemade versions of Mickey and Minnie and chain themselves to the front of the studio. And so that also, and they called a bunch of TV stations and got some media attention. And so all that collectively got the attention of the CEO. And so, like I said, that was 3 months into me working there. And that definitely got the attention of the CEO. And then he said, okay, we're focusing on making a paper policy, because they didn't want to have a negative image of Disney and having, letters from children saying, why are you, killing the rainforest and the animals there? So, yes, we will get to the tour in the communities, but I just wanted to share that little story for the question. Anyways, but I do think that there's some underlining pieces of what's the message that you're sharing with people and how are you sharing it is really kind of like how it all came through. And so that was something that really like pushed forward the policies to be able to be implemented and people really taking note and saying, okay, I'm listening now.
Yeah, so, that's awesome. I'm really glad you were there and doing that work.
Yay.
And then where did that take you? How did that transition into the next chapter?
Well, that was where I was like, this is cool, but I want to get back to community organizing. That's where my heart's at. So I went back to Oakland, California. Some friends were getting some things started. And a lot of the social justice movements were kind of picking up around that time, 2012. And then out of the blue in 2013 or 14, I got a phone call to go to Mississippi and be the ultimately do community organizing in the Deep South in the Delta. And so that was really interesting. I ended up being the director of revitalization, Revitalize Clarksdale. So that was very interesting, awesome experience. It was my dream job because it was a nonprofit that was kind of built from the city and the county of Clarksdale, Mississippi, but it had its own kind of like jurisdiction where we were a neutral, safe space, and we didn't have to like go through all the red tape of the bureaucracy of city and county, but we still had them as allies. So it was very cool, a really interesting design. I definitely think it's a design that can work really well if everybody's working together. And that was something where I spent a lot of time like getting to know different community leaders, different community members. There's a lot around both community interest and community of place. So it was really neat. Talk about learning different cultural backgrounds and different things going on. I would go from being the only white person in the room to being with a bunch of debutantes to farmers. We got the farmers market going. It was kind of desolate beforehand, and we worked with the federal government to get some funding and just created as a community beacon of space where people could come and do different things, work with the restaurants. They would share recipes, bring in the hospital, and they would do scans and blood work, or not. They would just like check in on people so they didn't have to go into the hospital. They just go to the farmer's market and be able to do a quick check-in and such. So
amazing. Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm curious, given all the different projects you've been part of and the organizing work you've been doing, how has that translated now to being where you are in Hawaii and the work that you're doing there?
Yeah. So my ultimate goal was I love the community work. I love the sustainability work. I want to bring it together. And so my goal of moving to Hawaii was to create my own sustainability center. And so I moved to Hawaii 3 years ago. It was kind of like the tail end of COVID. And so I did a little bit of research, but then I just really kind of checked out a lot of places when I arrived on the island and took the time. What's interesting about Hawaii Island, the big island, is that there is a lot of different cultures on this island. And and there's actually 13 different microclimates. So different people are drawn to different climates as part of it, as well as different kind of like cultural realms. So there's the east side of the island, which is Poa. It's the Puna district. And there's there's Kiau. And Hilo. So that's all kind of like the east side of the island. And that is a really rainy side of the island. And there's a lot of communities out there. It's also the youngest and newest part of the island as far as like the land is still forming there. 2018, there was a big volcano eruption, a fissure eruption, and so that went through some communities. Actually, Leilani Estates is an area out in the Puna district that got hit pretty hard, and so a lot of people lost their homes and had to rebuild, and so there's been a big focus of kind of like revitalizing Puna, and so there's been a lot of great funding and support and energy from the council members out there to support revitalizing Puna. And there's actually some funding that was available. And so I got to participate and see some organizations and groups. There's a group that is kind of a more circus community, but they also have a lot of permaculture stuff going on. And they are based in Seaview, which is kind of outside of the Pahoa area, and they have a lot of workshops, and they were able to use that Revitalize Puna funding to be able to put on educational programs and visit different communities in the Pahoa Puna district area. So I was really thrilled because I joined that right away and met a lot of people into permaculture, got to visit a lot of different communities and see what's happening in that east side of the island. And I thought it was really great. And there's some really knowledgeable people out there. So if people are interested in permaculture or learning those different communities, I'm happy to like share some insights from my experience visiting them. We're going to visit some when we go on the tour, and I'm pretty excited about that. Some of them aren't available that we wanted to visit, so I can definitely give you some insights on that. Some of them are kind of doing their own reorganization, which is good and healthy, I think, every so often as people are learning, oh, maybe this kind of communication and leadership style isn't working for us as much. So it's always good to kind of re-examine and reflect and see what's working. So
very neat. Yeah. I hope everyone listening can appreciate that Katrina is the type of person who gets into a region and is just a complete networker, organizer, linking dots, learning, engaging. So even though you haven't been in Hawaii for very long, you are already deeply engaged in so many of these groups and initiatives trying to create a sustainability center there. And I know David, who's listening, wants to create a sustainability center on Maui. So, and David also shared that he was at the City Repair event. Yeah, Portland City Repair Convergence in 2005. So yeah, very sweet that David is there as a co-creator on Maui while you're on the Big Island.
Yes, David, we will have to connect for sure. The Village Building Convergence in Portland happens still every year. So For those of you who are listening, that's a great opportunity to go learn some new skills, meet more people who are interested in this kind of larger community building work. And it's a lot of fun. A lot of natural building happens at it. Some of those intersection repair paintings happen at it. A lot of cob building for pizza ovens and pizza parties happen, which is really fun. Yeah, so but I wanted to get back to, because I saw some questions around like the interest in the Hawaii tour and some of those communities out there.
How about maybe I pull up the website for a moment, if that's helpful to have a visual, and then we can go through the different communities that we'll be visiting, and you can give a little more background to each one. So yeah, once again, if you were joining late, we're talking about the Hawaii Ecovillage Tour, January 4th to the 11th. It'll be an 8-day tour. As Katrina said, our intention was to visit as many communities as possible that are really showcasing the best of regeneration on the island, as well as communities with opportunities for more people to join them. And we did our best with that. And there are even more communities than we could visit on the trip. And Katrina is your girl to help you link up to those communities if you want to extend your time in Hawaii after the tour or anything like that. So our intention is to visit around 8 communities over 8 days. And we have a number of the communities listed here. I will mention off the bat, there is one community that we'll be visiting that didn't want to be advertised on our website, but is very much an actively growing community, a wonderful place to visit and live. So if you're curious about that, I can share more with you about them via email. They just didn't want to be so publicly displayed. But maybe we could start by talking about La'akea, because I think that is the most established community on the Big Island. It's been there the longest. Yeah, and we did just have them last week on Thursday present as part of the virtual tour series. So if you didn't get to see that event and are curious, that would be one great way to learn more about La'akea. Maybe Katrina, where do you want to situate us? Where is La'akea? What's the vibe where they are?
Yes. So La'akea is over on the east side of Hawaii. And so they are near Leilani Estates, the area I had mentioned that had the 2018 eruption from the volcano. Fissure 8 is what it's called. But it didn't affect them as much. And so they're still a strong community. They're probably the most established as far as I'm aware of on the island, as far as an intentional community. So they have some really good design and processes as far as a community goes. And so I think it's a really good one to learn from and check out. They have 23 acres of land. And so the land over on the east side, as I mentioned, is newer. The volcanoes, that part of the island is still forming. And so it's just good to be aware of. As I mentioned, there's 13 microclimates on the island. And so this is one of the newer ones. It's usually a little bit of a warmer climate and a lot of rain. So if you like rain, the east side is for you. If you're, get overwhelmed with lots of rain and rain clouds and gray skies at times, especially in the winter, it can get kind of cold, at least for this delicate flower over on the east side sometimes. So just be aware of that in the winter. Yes, I think that this would be a really great one, especially for a little bit of an older, or more mature type of person. If you are looking for something that's a little bit more settled, this would be a good community and great opportunity to garden and learn how to grow soil. Because again, the volcano rock is hard to grow from or grow things off of. So you have to learn how to build up the soil. But things do biodegrade very quickly, and you can create compost from lots of different things. Thanks for pulling up the map. So if you can see the dot that says Hilo, what you want to do is go down towards where it says Big Island, and in the purple area is the Puna district. And so this is where La'akea ecovillage is located. They're in this purple area, a little bit closer to where it says Pahoa on the side. So that is, it's a little bit closer to the coast area.
Right. And Katrina, you're living on the Kona side of the island. Yeah. And so essentially on the tour, what we're going to do is we're going to start on the Kona side, go up, kind of doing the upper northern edge of the island, coming down into Hilo and finishing on the Puna side before driving back over to Kona to finish. So it'll be kind of a little loop on the northern section of the island.
Yes.
So you get to see quite a few different regions. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. And the most northern part of the island, where North Kohala and Hawi are, is the oldest part of the island. So that's where the soil is really good. And so we'll get into that. Actually, if you click on the next one, Starseed Ranch and Hip Agriculture is based in North Kohala, the most northern tip of the island. And so they've got great soil, and they have a really nice multi-acre farm and some good farming practices. They do a lot of sustainable farming, regenerative practices. And up in that area, they have some traditional Hawaiian practices called lo'i, which is where they are planting in water the taro plant, also known as kalo. And so we'll be able to see some of that, and hopefully be able to, if you like to do hands-on activities, we might have a hands-on activity up there in one of the kalo patches.
Very nice. Yeah. I'm excited to see what people are doing in terms of agriculture on the island, because I've heard that, a majority of the food is imported from elsewhere, making it very expensive, yet there's so much that can be grown right there on the island. It seems just like a no-brainer in terms of sustainability. So I'm looking forward to learning from and supporting those kind of projects.
Yeah, and actually, building on that, one of the things that I'm doing now is I'm working with a consulting firm called the Hamaku Institute, where we are working with the county, which is island-wide, on a food system, a local food system action plan. So we're working with the local farmers, we're looking at the transportation, distribution, storage, different types of kitchens, from commercial kitchens to community kitchens, ways that people can create value-added products and keep the food locally here on the island, but also looking at the import and export of the food, but getting awareness out and also understanding who's all going to the local farmers markets and who's not, and why, and how can we get some of the food into larger grocery stores like Safeway and Costco, or other larger places, because a lot of the local markets and smaller markets have a lot of local food. There's one, by the way, a local food market called Locavore in Hilo. So if you want to go and support somewhere like that. Up in North Kohala, there's one called Kohala Grown. And so that's a fun boutique store that they sell lots of locally made products and food. We can also get lunch made there, really delicious. And fun spot in the heart of downtown of Hawi. So as we're talking about Starseed Ranch and Hip Agriculture, the North Kohala area is a really sweet area. It's an older community in general, a lot of retired folks, also a lot of more kind of people who like their quiet time, and introverted type folks. And so, but there's a little fun scene up there. I used to live in North Kohala. I tried all the places on the island, as I mentioned, but I lived in North Kohala for about a year. And I did work with Hip Agriculture and helped with their strategic planning, and Starseed Ranch, lived up there for a little bit. So I have like some firsthand knowledge and experience. And so I can, if you're interested in this area or you want to do work trade with them, I'm happy to share some insights on all of that. I will say one more thing before we move on to the next, because I think it's important. Related to the food scene on the island, Hip Agriculture helped the Kohala Food Hub get started. And now the Kohala Food Hub has spun off on its own. And so these are other opportunities if you want to like learn more about farming and learn about other farmers. There's hubs now that are involved in different ways of supporting the farmers on a local scene and just growing on lots of different levels, and including organizations. So it's pretty cool to see. So the Kohala Food Hub is a good model and design, and North Kohala has got a really strong agriculture community that's doing some self-organizing right now to really kind of move some things forward, and working with the county to move some policies forward to support and secure land access rights and all sorts of things. So there's lots of ways to get involved and to support and advocate for whatever community that you are living with, or community, a place that you want to kind of help support, build out. So I want to pass that on too.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. And as part of this tour, we're going to be eating at all of these wonderful businesses that are supporting and providing local food. So that was very much an intentional decision when we were designing the meals for this trip. And how about this next community? Because this is one that you had turned us on to, and I don't think is so well known outside of the island.
No, it wouldn't be. This is Puero Ridge. Puero means owl in Hawaii. And this is my good friend Sequoia's property. It's 10 acres. And she has a really neat design of the intentional community where people have to put in 10 hours a week to support and help build out the place together. So the philosophy is everybody's pitching in, and so it's not a complete like work trade model, but it is something like she wants people to feel like they're part of helping build it out. And she's very open to people's ideas. And, that can be like, if you have an idea of like wanting to build an outdoor shower, then that can be part of your 10 hours a week. And they eat a lot from the land. And I have been watching them grow this. One thing I really like about what they do here, as well as at Hip Agriculture, is they do educational programs on their land as well for the community at large. Besides, and a lot of times people who live there on the community will be able to share their expertise or skill and lead a class or workshop. And so it's a fun way of being able to like spread education, build community. There's always a potluck surrounded by it. And it's just a neat way. I mean, we've done things from stargazing and learning about the solar system to I taught one on conflict resolution and emotional intelligence and some skills around communication. There are lots of agricultural based things. You got a skill, she's open to you teaching it. You don't have to even live at the place. So this, if you wanted to live at this one, it's just really based on if there's an opening or not. Spaces do fill up quickly, but I thought that it would be a good one to show. And she's a very creative, high energy person who is kind of opening up a larger space. And it's kind of fun to see it build.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, great. I think we'll need to just go quickly through the next ones just for the sake of time. Big Island Permaculture.
Yes, so this is on the Honoka'a. That's the name of the town. It's over near Waipio Valley. So if we want to pull up the map again real quick, we can show people. It's still on the north side of the island, but a little bit on the other side, going towards where it says Pacific Ocean on the map. and you'll see Honoka'a. So that is where Big Island permaculture farm and community is. And so they have work trade opportunities there, as well as I believe people can like live there long term. They're an older couple. They used to live in California. They're pretty well established, and I think that they are really grounded, lovely people, and have some really good things to share and learn. And once a year, they have a permaculture training course, which my good friend Penny Livingston teaches. She's wonderful, a great teacher, wonderful person. She's been doing this a long time. And so I believe actually she'll be teaching at the time of us going through on the tour. So you'll be able to meet her, as well as get a sense of a little bit of like how they do their permaculture training and their farm. So I think that'll be a really nice one. And I will say Honoka'a is a really great community. They've got a lot going on. They have a theater there where they do dance, as well as they just had the Ren Fair, kind of like they do lots of different activities and things. So I think it's a really vibrant community. And so I like it. It's just cold up there for me.
Cold. Everything's relative.
Yeah, it's true. Like if you don't mind the mountains, like it is a little bit more mountainous over there. It's a little bit of that mountain vibe.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then the next community, Sundari, this is where we are going to be actually staying overnight for the last, I believe, 4 nights of the trip. We'll be staying at Sundari, which is itself a community, but also well connected with other intentional communities right in the immediate area, including an off-grid community and other communities that are more of that real estate development model. If there's some folks listening that are looking to purchase land or buy or build a home. So Sundari will be a really great base camp for learning about other opportunities on the island in that region.
Mm-hmm. And they have a spa.
Oh yeah. Best part.
Yes. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. And then if you are on the website, you can see the full tour itinerary, the day by day, and also some other communities in the area that we're considering or that we may be able to build in as more optional day trips for those who are interested. So yeah, once again, here's the webpage. And I haven't mentioned this already, but we are just now having 2 more spots available on the trip. So if you're thinking about joining us, don't wait too long to sign up, as we do just have 2 spots for our January 4th to the 11th trip. And yeah, I would really encourage you to reach out to us if you're thinking of coming and want more specific questions about the communities, as well as to maybe get recommendations for other ways to extend your time in Hawaii on the Big Island or other islands in the region, to see what other opportunities there are for joining communities out there. Yeah. Great. Katrina, anything else you want to share, like just about the trip and what you are hoping folks will get out of the experience?
Yeah. There's, like I said, there's a lot of different cultures and like types of communities and communities of interest on the island, and different parts of the island offer different types of things and activities. And so there's just a lot to explore, and I'm happy when people join the tour to talk with them on the tour about my experience and what I've seen and learned, and what might be helpful for you as you're kind of thinking through what might be good for you. Some places are not as well organized, and some places are very organized. So in different realms of that is going to work for different types of people and where you're at in your life, right? So I always say, if I was in my 20s and kind of like more in the festival scene, I would love living in Puna, in the Puna district. But I'm in my 40s now, and I I have certain ambitions and goals. I'm working with the county on certain things. So I live in Kona. For me, I find it to be a little bit more grounded. Plus, I love theater and expressive arts and dance. And so there's places I can go where I can go to a choreographed dance class or be in a play at the theater or something like that. And so that works for me. But everybody's different and has different interests. And so that's something that is really helpful. There's one last thing I did want to share that I've gotten involved in that I think could be helpful, not just here on the island, but anywhere. I work with the West Hawaii Mediation Center. So I'm a trained mediator, and I also teach youth in schools mediation skills and conflict resolution skills, and teach them how to be peer mediators. So on the tour, we can do some activities around some conflict resolution and communication skills, and learning different types of personalities and how to work with different personalities, because everybody's got something to contribute, but not every personality always works well with the other. But again, seeking to understand how people work and operate really helps. And if there's any psychology buffs out there, we'll be buddy, because I love psychology, and that's part of what I got my master's in. And so I love doing these deep dives and understanding, and try to understand where different perspectives are coming from. And I think that's a really key thing of understanding why people are acting the way they are. Perhaps different needs are not being met. And so sometimes it's just helpful to understand, what can be done instead of coming at judgment, and just really try to understand where people are coming from and to resolve situations from that perspective.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. I think for those of you who don't live in community yet, maybe write down Katrina's name and get her contact information, because at some point your community is going to need some outside support with conflict, because conflict is inevitable and can actually be a positive experience, especially when you're working with a trained mediator to help navigate community living situations. So Katrina's your girl for that. Absolutely. Aw. Yeah, I guess one other thing I'll mention regarding the Hawaii trip as we begin to wrap up, we have gotten a lot of questions from people regarding how we are holding the Indigenous community there on the island as we design this trip and really engaging them. And I think it's something that is on the hearts and minds of many of the communities that we have visited, a number of them that are, working very closely with Indigenous, have Indigenous residents in the community, Indigenous leadership. So that'll be excellent to learn from, as well as we are designing a number of moments throughout the trip to learn about the local Hawaiian culture, the language, the customs, traditions. We are reaching out right now to an elder within the Indigenous Hawaiian community to actually spend an evening with us and share more deeply. So it's very much on our minds, and we're doing our best to do this in a respectful way that can kind of honor the just the locals and the history and the future as well of Hawaii. We really want this tour to be an opportunity to support positive change, not just a normal, Hawaiian vacation. There'll be an element of that, we want beach time, relaxing time, but also to make it more meaningful and hopefully something that can have a positive impact.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad you brought that up, and it's very true. It's very important to respect the culture that is here, and within that to recognize. Not so long ago, colonizers came in and really took a lot away from the people who live here, and the Hawaiians, and so there's a lot of resentment, especially towards white people or even Japanese. It's something to really be aware of as you come in, and to enter in humbly and with the spirit of aloha. It's something I really appreciate out here is that spirit of aloha and reverence and appreciation and respect. And so people will really see that and appreciate it. But if you come in with wanting to take over or just like say, I want my little patch of just mine, it's definitely not going to be as respected. And the island can be quite intense. It's both very healing, but also the goddess Pele of the volcano is powerful, and it's definitely something to be respected. And so it's a place where a lot of your stuff will come up, and it's a good time for really reflecting and healing and be able to work on yourself and work on these things. And so just, a friendly reminder that there may be things that come up for you during the trip, or as well as if you choose to live here. It definitely puts you on the fast track to doing a lot of internal healing and working on past trauma and different things. So it's just something that the island does. And so I think it's important to know, I've been here for 3 years, and I've gone through a lot, and I've learned how, I would say I've eaten a lot of humble pie. And it's really good to allow yourself to just do that. And so as with permaculture, the first thing to do is observation. And so that's what I personally have done, is taking time to observe and learn and get a sense of the different cultures and environments throughout the island. And even where I live now, I'm going in very slowly and gingerly, and with a lot of respect. So, yeah. And I'm so excited. We're going to have an elder, a kapuna, as we say here in Hawaii. A kapuna is an elder who will be able to share. There's just such beauty and the spirit out here. Like, people are just so lovely. And so I'm very excited to have someone to be able to share some wisdom and some stories with us.
Oh, yeah, I'm so excited. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for even what you shared about the intensity of Hawaii, the opportunity for transformation and deeper work. I'm really excited to see these communities, what they've been doing and creating, what opportunities they have. And yeah, very grateful for you, Katrina, to have said yes to co-creating this adventure. Very excited to give you a hug here in January and go on the adventure with you, and also many of the folks who are listening. So thank you so much for listening and for your good questions. And I hope to see some of you on the trip soon. Okay, I think that's all that we have for today. So thank you once again, and take care, everyone.
All right. See you soon.
All right. Bye. See you soon.
Thank you so much, Cynthia.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.